Hello, Donna here. I just literally walked in from Botox, my Botox appointment today, so I just thought I would talk a little bit about what that experience is like. For starters, it's relief. My insurance has been giving me hell. It's fucked up as most insurance is in this country, and I'm about a week and a half overdue for my Botox. Botox, again, is every 3 months as allowed by the government, or I would go more often if they would let me. And it has to be done almost to the day. Some people say that they don't notice when it runs out, but I feel like I can tell when it's wearing off. My head starts to bother me more. It also tends to pour rain around the time that I get my Botox or due for Botox. God's just laughing at me or toying with me, I can't tell. But there it is. So I feel much calmer than I did this morning. This morning I was a hormonal, cranky person. And slept well last night, something I suffer from often. And just my appointments tend to be early in the morning. And I live in Brooklyn. I go to Montefiore Medical Center in the Bronx, their headache clinic. That's where my neurologist is. And that's who does my Botox. So it's about an hour and a half, maybe less if there's no traffic. Spoiler alert, there's always traffic. So I left my house at 9:30 this morning, and it is almost 12:30, and I'm just getting back. The Botox itself and the appointment is fairly quick. I spent about a half hour with my doctor talking. The injections take about maybe 5 minutes, maybe a little longer. I get 41 shots. It is divided by 4 needles, so it's pretty much 10 injections a shot. They are located in my forehead, here, all in here. Then on both sides, here and here. Then here, whatever this is called, a little bit again before the base of my neck, and then down both shoulders. On the way home, this spot right here, you can't see, was on fire. It felt like it had a heartbeat. The needles are long and thin, and there's some pushback when they inject because I guess the Botox is sort of thick. A lot of times I feel like they're bleeding on the outside, and turns out what I'm actually feeling is the Botox dripping inside my head. It's creepy. Sometimes the injection sites do bleed, but as you can see, I'll lean in. You can't really, there's some dots here. I can see because I know where they are, but you can't really tell. And it just occurred to me that this is another side of chronic migraine illness, is it's invisible. It's invisible when I'm in pain, and it's invisible when I get Botox. It looks like a painless process. I really wish that it was, and I wish that you could sort of see. I'm trying to see if I could find an injection site that's clearer. That you could see sort of the marks, at least for a little while, to show what it feels like on the inside, because it doesn't feel good. A lot of it's covered up by hair, of course, so I don't know what those injection sites look like. I always make sure to wear a loose-fitting bra because I don't want any straps pulling on my shoulders, or if you're carrying a purse or something like that, a bag, take it easy on the shoulders. So since I had Botox today, I wanted to talk about my Botox rituals. I've been going for 6 years now, and so I have a pretty well schedule of I like to follow. Before I go to Botox, I always make sure to wash my hair. That is because after Botox, I don't usually wash my hair for 3 or 4 days if I can hold out. There are injection sites, like I said, all throughout my scalp. And while I can't see them, they're still injection sites. They're still little pinpricks and essentially open wounds. So I don't want to have to shampoo my hair or touch it or aggravate it. Even washing my face for the next day or two, I will, of course, throw water on my forehead, but I only put soap or anything, or lotion, anything down below, because I don't have any Botox injections down here. I always kid my doctor that eventually I'm going to be a 70-year-old lady with like the perfect forehead, and like the rest of my face is going to sag, but she thinks I'm out of my mind. So yeah, you have to keep mindful of the injection sites. My neurologist says that you are not allowed to put heat or ice on them for 48 hours. Ice is something that I used to use fairly often when my head bothered me. I don't really anymore because sometimes the weight of it kind of bothers me. But again, you have to be mindful of the injection sites. I always make sure that my sheets are clean. I change my towels, everything, because again, injection sites, and I want to keep them incredibly clean. I know, I mean, they're very tiny pinpricks, but I don't want to play with fire. Speaking of fire, it's exactly what I feel like right now. Actually, I'm going to take the clip down from my hair, if I could find the clip, because my hair is hurting. I guess the clip is pulling. The clip was actually, not that it looks any better. The clip was actually pulling on where a large part of the injections are, like right back here. And so that's killing me. I feel like the injections hurt. They're like, each shot is like 100 bee stings that burn, itch, and even throb at occasion. This will probably go on, I don't know, at least 24 hours. Sometimes they're better than others. I have no idea why. Last time I had Botox was the end of January, and my head was okay, but I got this deadening shoulder feeling, like, you know, when you have the flu and you can't move your body. So anytime I had to reach up to grab something, like especially like the cabinet where I keep my seasonings when I'm cooking, just that activity, it felt like I had boulders on my shoulders and I was just trying to move them. That's just because of where the Botox gets injected into your muscles. So that is uncomfortable. So because of this, I have a rule. Anybody that gets 41 shots in their head can do whatever they want that day. Normally, my head doesn't get the rule of the roost. I mean that I have a serious gastritis, my stomach inflammation. Some of that's natural, some of that's due to all the prolonged medications I used to take. So my head doesn't always get what it wants. My head always wants coffee. Now, for migraine triggers, things are different for everybody. Food is different for everybody, and if you start seeing a headache specialist, you will go through the course of seeing if it's food related, if it's weather related, like mine are, or whatever your triggers are. For me, caffeine isn't a trigger. It doesn't make them go away, but I like caffeine, and it seems to soothe my head most of the time. However, my stomach hates it. Coffee is very hard on the stomach, full of acid, of course, and no nutritional value. It's also incredibly dehydrating, another trigger for migraines. So I always make sure I am double fisting with a coffee and a water. I also try to limit the amount of salt I eat, nitrates, meaning processed meats, hot dogs, anything that sounds good is counterintuitive. But on a Botox day, I let myself do whatever I want. I always make sure I go with an iced coffee, usually from Starbucks because that's my favorite. On the way home, I like to hit a drive-through. I went to McDonald's today. Haven't eaten it yet, but it's here with me. Like I said, my head gets to do whatever it wants. It is a me day. It could be a self-care day, a whatever kind of day that is. So the rest of today, once I'm done talking here, I am going to relax and lay down. I can nap if I want. Falling asleep is always a problem for me. I'm not really a great napper. But I'm going to watch Criminal Minds. Again, something that relaxes me. And just take it easy. I'm not going to cook tonight, which is something I normally do. I cooked last night. If you're following me on Instagram at The Queen Blogger, check out any hashtag for Dinner a la Donna. I'm working on a cookbook. But even though cooking isn't really stressful for me, I'm not making myself do anything else. I'm not doing laundry. I'm not blogging. I'm not looking at my computer. Barely going to be on my phone. I want to give my head as much leeway as possible because my Botox was late this time around. And I just want the injections to heal. You have to be very careful how you lay. There's no real comfortable place because the injections are both sides and behind my head. So I lay as best I can. And so I started about 6 years ago with Botox. And when I used to go for Botox, the first few times, I would be a ball of nerves before I would go. I was a train wreck. If I was eating lunch or something beforehand just to kill time or whatever the scenario was, I could barely eat. I was a wreck. I used to sometimes take an aspirin or a Motrin or something to see if that would lessen the injection site pain. It doesn't really, so I don't anymore. I also try not to put anything in my body that my body doesn't need, because migraines are rebounding in the sense that if you take too much pain medication, your body gets used to it and it can actually trigger another headache. It's ridiculous, but you have to be very careful. And so I never let my head have something it doesn't absolutely need. A lot of times I talk to it, and you'll hear me, if you're anywhere near me, say, okay, that's it, knock it off. You're not getting any pain pills. You're going to just have to deal with it. I don't know that that actually works, or it's just me willing it into creation, but sometimes it does. At the same times when I have to take pills, a pain pill, I just say, okay, you're going to get what you want. Please leave me alone. Please subside. It's my other personality. But back to the early days of Botox. So the early days of Botox, I had to sign waivers, which is not terrifying at all, acknowledging that what they were putting into my body was botulism and had been processed, but botulism is botulism, and that there could be any kind of side effect, and that I knew what I was doing and I was allowing it. I had no choice at that point. By the time I got around to trying Botox, I had failed every other category of drug that there is, meaning that there's several categories of drugs to take for migraines, and none of them were working. I was still taking them and combining them in all kinds of ways because you never really know what's going to work for you, but they were still coming. That's how insurance came to pay for my Botox. Before Botox, about the month before, so this was like March rather, 2013. I started in April 2013 in Botox. March, the very last thing to try before Botox was something called nerve blocker injections. I don't know the exact name of the drug that they use, but it's in the Novocaine family. So anybody that's had dental work, it's Novocaine. There were 9 injections. I felt like they were someplace up here. I don't really know the sites. They're not the same spaces as the Botox. I know that. And there were only 9. I was completely terrified. And when my doctor said she thought that we should give them a go, I was like all prepared to go home and think about it for a while. My mother was in the room and she's like, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just try it. It's always easier said than done. So we tried it. I want to say it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday. And by that Friday, I remember because I was seeing a singer I like perform in New York City. I wanted to die. Of course, I was in a bar, so the smells and the sounds and the sights weren't great. But I had a terrible migraine, and I knew instantly it wasn't working. And that was devastating. Side note, now I know Novocaine doesn't really work for me. So even when I go to the dentist, if the filling isn't like a root canal size filling, I don't even get the Novocaine shot. I can handle that. I don't know if it's because my pain tolerance in my head is high or just that drug doesn't work for me. So really, it doesn't even, I don't think, ever numbed me to the point where I was like drooling or couldn't eat or anything like that. So the following month we went back, and that's when we decided to start the Botox. Botox at first is 36 injections. The maximum dose is 41. However many, whatever that difference is, it's a small difference, the dosage. It just means I get a few extra shots in my shoulders. But I have a touch of fibromyalgia, very common, especially in women and especially in migraine sufferers. It's really all the back at top of your neck. It's pain. It's very, very deep muscle-like ache that's just sore, it hurts, and you can't ever get to the spot to get the tension out. For me, Botox takes a lot of that out. Whatever it doesn't, I just deal with. The first few times I had Botox, the side effects weren't really so bad, but they felt stronger than they are now. Or I guess I didn't know what to expect, so my senses were heightened. I also have to remember that my migraines were incredibly awful. I was feeling a lot of different things all of the time, so I already felt like crap, so it's sort of hard to decipher what the injections were doing separately. The first time I got Botox, I stayed home an entire week from work, which was fairly common at that time and point because I couldn't make it to commute and to my day job that I had at the time. And what I experienced first, what I remember the most, was fatigue, besides the injection site pain, is the fatigue. Flu-like fatigue, minus, of course, the fever and all the other unpleasantness of having the flu. Just deep, deep ache. Now, at that time, I was told fatigue wasn't a symptom of the Botox. But over the years, I've become pretty in tune with my body. I know when something isn't right, and usually you can figure out what it is. I knew it was the Botox. Now, if you hear the Botox commercials on TV, you will hear fatigue listed as a side effect. I'm not saying that's because of me, but I'm saying that I'm right. So I stayed in bed, I just relaxed, whatever. I don't think that I ever really had a side effect like the ones that they warn you about. You can have difficulty breathing because I've learned that your rib cage actually extends into your shoulders, your lungs. And so actually before my doctor injects me in the shoulder, you have to sort of take a deep breath so she can feel whatever it is that she's feeling for the right spot. She makes me do a few other like facial gestures when she's up to these spots to see. And so this is why I will only let my neurologist inject me. Only one other time in the last 6 years has someone else injected me with Botox. My doctor was on maternity leave, and her fill-in did it. Board certified and everything. I swear it didn't work as well. I don't know if that's just me or not, but I don't trust anybody else because it is a very dangerous thing. It's a very serious thing. If they hit the wrong place in your face, you can have Bell's palsy. It essentially looks like you had a stroke. It's all sagging down the side. You can have all kinds of different bleeding problems. It's a real serious thing, and so it has to be something you really, really, really trust. I've seen Botox offered at like spas and stuff, like signage in the windows, and how you can let anybody do that. I appreciate they're not getting 41 injections just probably for fillers or whatever, but you've got to be out of your mind to do that. You also have to be out of your mind to do this for vanity. The skull's, of course, the least cushiony place on your body. All the fat that's on my body, they're shooting it into my skull, so I have no source of anything to absorb the impact of the injection, except what feels like bone. I know it's not bone, but I don't know how you can do it, how you can get injections for fun or vanity. I guess I don't care what I look like that much. So I'm feeling good that I came back from Botox, despite all the pain and the aching, and I know what to expect now, so that helps. But also going to see my neurologist is like a spiritual process for me. I talked to my last episode about validation, and I just realized today that she's an enormous source of positive validation for me. Even though our encounters are brief at this point because we have a rundown of what we're going over, I'm not really on medication anymore, we're just checking in. She's like my therapist and healer all in one. I run down all the things I want to tell her. If I haven't emailed her in between our visits, I go every 3 months for Botox and my checkup at the same time now. And she always gets back to me, always is thoughtful, always remembers the last thing I said or like the last concern that I had, and always asks the question and checks in. And I tell her what I think is caused from one thing or another, and she just listens and reiterates it back to me in a way that makes me feel validated. And that's really important with someone with a chronic illness, especially an invisible chronic illness. I know this is her specialty. She works at a headache clinic, and this is what she does all day long. But still, personality matters in your doctor. You have to have a relationship. I have a closest relationship with my neurologist because of my illness, but I'm closer to her than most people I'm related to. She knows more about me, what I do on the outside, even non-headache related things. And it's just so important. I can't advocate that strong enough. You have to have a doctor that you can ask questions to, that you can confide in, that you can feel crazy around. I used to cry the first year I visited her. Probably used to cry every time I came out of her office going into her office. I was so sick and so scared and so anxious, and it took a long time for us to get a rapport going. She's fairly stoic by nature, and that troubled me at first. But now that we know each other so well, I feel like she's one of the most intimate relationships in my life in the best way possible. And I always tell her that if you move jobs, states, countries, be prepared that I will be living in your basement. I will be following you wherever you go, because I can't imagine my life without her. I just really can't. I can't imagine going to another doctor with this kind of issue. Of course, I see other specialists and stuff, but by far, she's the smartest, most caring person I know. And when she feels more comfortable, I haven't actually broached her about this. I'd like to film myself getting Botox. I'd like to have her talk to you guys. So I'm not saying her name yet purposefully, But Montefiore is a great place if you're in the tri-state area. So you have to apply to get in, but it's worth it. Certainly worth it. So now that I am all talked out, I want to make sure I covered all my bases. Yes, I left myself notes today. Yeah, so I think that's about it for today. I'm going to go eat my McDonald's and turn on Criminal Minds and relax. But that's what a Botox day looks like. I always allow myself this day not to do anything else extra. Maybe I'll go to a store or something if I really have to or want to, but nothing else. It is a Donna free day. I just get to do whatever I want, however I feel, in the context of my own home. Peace and quiet. I also wanted to mention that I now take myself to Botox, to and from Botox. For a long time, I always had somebody with me because I was afraid of how it would feel afterwards. I wait at the clinic for a few minutes just to see, but I know pretty much, like, I'm not going to have a side effect, or in case of something, if I felt strange, I would stay. But I take myself because I appreciate that not everybody can take off of work and scheduling just for my appointment and then to watch me nap afterwards. I used to really bother me that I was doing it alone because sometimes you just, what if my head is going to hurt? Today the rain was, of course, the weather's crappy, it was foggy, but whatever. But I've decided that I actually liked having that time before I go in for Botox to just sort of prep myself, not really psych myself up, but just breathe, especially afterwards. I can make it as cold in the car as I want it. I can play the loudest 90s hip hop rap music I like and sing away and just breathe. Sip my iced coffee, figure out what kind of fast food crap I'm going to bring home, and then just sort of think. Today, what I thought about was this conversation. So it wasn't planned, but I thought I would do it nonetheless. So I hope everyone is well out there and taking good care of themselves. And I hope you have a migraine-free day. And I will see you next time.